I never thought my life would implode over avocado toast and mimosas, but here we are. Let me back up and explain how a casual Sunday brunch turned into the moment that nearly destroyed my marriage, my finances, and my faith in family. My name is Marcus, and I'm a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in Seattle. I'm 34, married to my wife Jennifer for 6 years, and we have a 3-year-old daughter named Sophie. We're not rich by any means, but we're comfortable. We own a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, drive reliable cars, and manage to save a little each month. I'm telling you this because what I'm about to describe isn't about wealthy people throwing money around. This is about regular people, a tight budget, and trust that got absolutely shattered. Jennifer's older sister, Veronica, has always been what I diplomatically call high maintenance. She's 38, works in marketing for a luxury cosmetics brand, and has always lived beyond her means. Designer bags, expensive dinners, luxury vacations she can't afford. She was married to a guy named Derek for about 4 years, but they divorced 2 years ago. No kids, which honestly, knowing Veronica, was probably for the best. After her divorce, Veronica moved into a trendy downtown loft that cost more than our mortgage. She drove a leased BMW. She regularly posted Instagram stories from expensive restaurants and wine bars. Jennifer and I would sometimes joke privately about how Veronica managed it all on her salary, but we figured maybe she'd gotten a good settlement from Derek or had savings we didn't know about. It wasn't really our business. The relationship between Jennifer and Veronica had always been complicated. Jennifer, being the younger sister, had spent her whole life in Veronica's shadow. Veronica was the one their parents bragged about, the successful career woman, the one who supposedly had it all figured out. Jennifer, who works as an elementary school teacher, always felt like the lesser daughter, even though she'd built a beautiful life for us. I'd spent 6 years trying to build up my wife's confidence, reminding her that money and status aren't everything, that she was an amazing mother and partner. But Veronica had this way of making Jennifer feel small. Little comments about our neighborhood, our cars, our vacation choices. Nothing overtly cruel, just death by 1,000 paper cuts. Oh, you're still driving that Honda. How? Practical. Or must be nice to not worry about keeping up with fashion trends. Jennifer would always laugh it off, but I could see it hurt her. Still, they were sisters. They had brunch together twice a month, talked on the phone regularly, and Jennifer included Veronica in all our family events. I tolerated Veronica because I loved my wife, and family was important to Jennifer. I was civil, kept conversations light, and mostly stayed out of their sisterly dynamic. Now here's a crucial piece of information that becomes very important later. About 18 months before the brunch incident, Jennifer and I were refinancing our mortgage to get a better rate. During that process, we decided to get a joint credit card that would be specifically for household expenses and emergencies. We'd both have cards, we'd both monitor the account, and we'd use it to build points for a family vacation we were planning. The limit was $25,000, which seemed reasonable for emergencies and gave us good rewards potential. We were careful with it. We used it for groceries, gas, utilities, and paid it off in full every month. We were responsible. We checked the statements together. Everything was above board and organized. I'm detail-oriented by nature, being an engineer, so I had alerts set up for large purchases. Anything over $500 would trigger a notification to my phone. Except here's where I screwed up. The alerts were set up through the credit card company's app, and about 4 months before the incident, I got a new phone. When I transferred everything over, I somehow failed to properly set up the credit card app alerts. I had the app, I could check the balance, but the automatic notifications weren't working. It's the kind of stupid mistake that you don't realize you've made until it's too late. Jennifer had always left the financial details to me. It wasn't that she was irresponsible, she just didn't enjoy it, and I did. I like spreadsheets and budgets and optimizing our finances. So while we had joint access to everything, I was the one who typically reviewed the statements and managed the payments. She trusted me to handle it, and I'd never given her reason not to. For about 3 months, I got busy at work, really busy. We were launching a new product, and I was pulling 60-hour weeks coming home exhausted. The kind of tired where you just want to zone out in front of the TV and not think about anything. During that time, I'll admit, I got sloppy. I was still paying our bills, but I was doing it quickly, not really reviewing the statements like I usually did. I'd glance at the total, make sure it seemed roughly right, and pay it off. The balance would be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month, which was normal for all our household expenses, so nothing seemed off. I know what you're thinking. How could I not notice an extra $1,600 a month? Well, our spending did fluctuate. Some months we'd have extra expenses. We'd redone Sophie's bedroom during this time. I'd bought some new computer equipment for a home office setup. We'd had some dental work. The numbers seemed higher, but not alarmingly so. Not enough to trigger real concern when I was exhausted and just trying to keep all the balls in the air. This is where I need to explain something about Veronica. She'd always been weirdly interested in our financial details. She'd ask Jennifer questions about our mortgage rate, our salaries, our savings. Jennifer, being trusting and not seeing any harm in it, would sometimes share information. I'd asked her not to, told her it made me uncomfortable, but Jennifer would say, "She's my sister, Marcus. She's not going to do anything with that information. She's just curious." About 6 months before the brunch, Veronica had been over at our house for dinner. I remember she'd accidentally spilled wine on her purse and Jennifer had taken it to the kitchen to clean it up. Veronica had gone with her, and I'd stayed in the living room with Sophie. Later, I wouldn't even remember this evening as significant, but Jennifer told me eventually that Veronica had asked to see the new credit card, said she was thinking of getting the same one because the rewards program sounded good. Jennifer, being helpful and completely unsuspecting, had shown her, had even told her about how we used it for all our household expenses and paid it off monthly. I'm sure in Veronica's mind, that's when the idea started forming. Here's what I learned later, much later, about what Veronica did. She'd somehow gotten enough information from that interaction, maybe from seeing the card, maybe from things Jennifer had innocently mentioned, to call the credit card company. She'd impersonated Jennifer, claiming she'd lost her card and needed a replacement sent to a different address temporarily because they were having work done on the house. She'd known Jennifer's social security number, mother's maiden name, all those security questions, because they were sisters and had grown up together. The credit card company, in a catastrophic failure of security protocol, had sent a replacement card to an address Veronica provided. Just like that, she had a card on our account. She was smart about it too. She didn't go crazy at first. She started small, testing the waters. A charge here for $100, another there for $75. When nothing happened, when no one called her or questioned it, she got bolder. Then she'd hired the nanny. Now we get to the brunch. It was a Sunday in late April, one of those beautiful Seattle spring days where the sun actually comes out and everyone remembers why they tolerate the rain. Jennifer had her regular brunch date with Veronica at this trendy place called Bloom that had recently opened downtown. Usually I didn't go to these. It was sister time, and I was happy to stay home with Sophie, but Jennifer had really wanted me to come to this one. She'd said Veronica had mentioned wanting to discuss something important with both of us, something about family. I'd been annoyed, honestly. Sunday was my day to relax, and spending it with Veronica wasn't my idea of a good time. But Jennifer had given me those puppy dog eyes, and I'd agreed. We dropped Sophie off at my mom's house and headed downtown. The restaurant was exactly the kind of place Veronica loved. Exposed brick Edison bulbs, a menu that listed a simple egg dish for $22. We arrived first and got a table on the patio. Jennifer seemed nervous, which I'd noticed but hadn't really processed. She kept fidgeting with her napkin, checking her phone. "Do you know what this important thing is?" I asked her while we waited. "No idea," she'd said, not meeting my eyes. "You know Veronica, she likes drama, it's probably nothing." Veronica arrived 15 minutes late, which was standard for her. She was wearing an outfit that probably cost more than our entire brunch bill would, designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, carrying a handbag I recognized as Prada. She air-kissed Jennifer, gave me a perfunctory hug that I barely returned, and sat down with a dramatic sigh. "God, I'm exhausted," she announced. "Macy was up half the night teething, and even with Carla doing the night routine, I still can't sleep when I hear her fussing." Jennifer and I exchanged a glance. "Who's Macy?" Jennifer asked. Veronica laughed like we'd told a hilarious joke. "My daughter, Macy. I know I haven't brought her around much yet, but come on, Jen." The confusion must have been written all over our faces because Veronica pulled out her phone and started showing us pictures. A baby, maybe 8 or 9 months old, with dark curly hair and round cheeks. Cute kid, absolutely no idea who she was. "Veronica," Jennifer said slowly, "when did you have a baby?" Another laugh, more forced this time. "I didn't have her. I'm fostering her. I told you about this. I've been going through the process for like a year." Jennifer shook her head. "You absolutely did not tell me you were becoming a foster parent." I watched Veronica's expression shift, a flash of something I couldn't quite read before the bright smile returned. "Well, I'm telling you now. Surprise, I got approved 3 months ago, and Macy came to me about 6 weeks ago. It's been an adjustment, let me tell you, but Carla has been a lifesaver." "Who's Carla?" I asked, starting to get a weird feeling in my gut. "The nanny, obviously," Veronica said like I was being slow. "I can't exactly take a baby to the office every day. Carla comes Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, and she does some light housekeeping too. She's amazing. Ecuadorian, great with babies, very professional." That must be expensive, Jennifer said, and I could hear the strain in her voice. She knew, same as I did, that a full-time nanny in Seattle would cost a fortune. Veronica waved her hand dismissively. It's $1,600 a month, which is actually a steal for full-time care. I found her through an agency. $1,600 a month. That number pinged something in my brain, but I couldn't quite grab onto it. How are you affording that? The question came out before I could stop it, and I saw Jennifer wince. It was rude, but something was feeling really wrong about this whole situation. Veronica's smile got tight. Well, that's actually what I wanted to talk to you both about. She took a sip of the mimosa she'd ordered, drawing out the moment. I needed help, and Jennifer's always saying how we're family and family helps each other, so I put it on your card. The nanny service charges on the 1st of each month, started in February. The world seemed to tilt slightly. I'm sorry, what? The nanny, Veronica repeated slower now, her eyes locked on mine with this look of challenge. $1,600 a month. I've been putting it on your credit card, you know, the household one. Jennifer had gone pale. Veronica, what are you talking about? You don't have our credit card. Sure I do, you helped me get one, remember, when I was over for dinner that night, and we were talking about how great the rewards program was. You said it was fine, that you guys had plenty of room on the limit, and that family should help family. I felt like I was in an alternate reality. Jennifer never said that. That never happened. Veronica's expression turned cold. Are you calling me a liar, Marcus? I'm saying there's been a massive misunderstanding, because my wife would never give you access to our credit card without talking to me, and even if she had, which she didn't, you can't just charge thousands of dollars without asking us first. The conversation was starting to draw looks from nearby tables. Jennifer looked like she might throw up or cry, I couldn't tell which. Veronica, she said quietly, I never gave you permission to use our credit card. I don't even understand how you have it. For just a second, Veronica's mask slipped, and I saw something ugly underneath. Then the smile was back, but meaner now. Well, I have it, and I've been using it, and honestly, you guys can afford it. Marcus makes what, 6 figures? And it's not like you have expensive taste. You're still shopping at Target and driving that sad little Honda. The least you can do is help me out when I'm trying to give a child a better life. You committed fraud, I said, my voice coming out harder than I'd intended. You stole our credit card information, and you've been charging to it without permission. That's credit card fraud, Veronica. That's a crime. She actually rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. It's a family loan. I'll pay you back eventually. When? Jennifer found her voice, and she sounded stronger now, angry. When exactly were you planning to pay us back, and what else have you been charging? Just the nanny, Veronica said, but her eyes shifted slightly, and maybe a few other little things here and there. Nothing major. God, you're both acting like I robbed a bank. It's been like, what, $5,000 total? You probably spend that on useless crap anyway. $5,000, 3 months. $1,600 for the nanny each month was $4,800. What were the other little things? I pulled out my phone right there at the table, my hands shaking with anger. I opened the credit card app and, for the first time in months, really looked at the detailed statement instead of just the total. February nanny service, $1,600. Nordstrom, $600. Sephora, $300. A salon I didn't recognize, $400. Restaurant charges, another few hundred. March nanny service, $1,600. More Nordstrom, more Sephora. A payment to something called premium auto detailing for $250. Whole Foods charges that were definitely not from our local store. April nanny service, $1,600, and it just kept going. I did quick mental math, my engineering brain working even through the rage. This wasn't $5,000. This was close to $10,000, maybe more. 3 months of systematic fraud. It's not $5,000, I said, my voice deadly calm now. It's over $10,000, Veronica. You've stolen over $10,000 from us. Jennifer grabbed my phone and looked at the screen. I watched the color drain from her face completely as she scrolled through the charges. The Prada bag, she whispered. You bought that Prada bag with our card, and those shoes you posted on Instagram last week, and your hair extensions. I needed those things, Veronica said, and the entitlement in her voice was staggering. I have to maintain a certain image for work, and the nanny is for Macy, so that's basically charity. You should be happy to help. We're calling the police, I said, standing up. Right now, this is theft. Sit down, Veronica hissed. You're making a scene. I don't give a damn about a scene. You stole from us. Jennifer stood up too, and when I looked at her, there were tears streaming down her face. But she wasn't sad crying, she was angry crying. How could you do this to me? To us, we have a daughter, Veronica. We have a mortgage. We're saving for Sophie's college. That money wasn't just sitting there for you to take. Oh, please, Veronica snapped, her voice dripping with venom now. You have plenty of money. You just don't know how to enjoy it. You're so busy being responsible and boring that you can't even help out your own family when someone needs it. Mom and Dad always said you were selfish, and they were right. That did it, Jennifer actually gasped like she'd been slapped. The mom and dad comment was a low blow, bringing up their parents who'd always favored Veronica, who'd always made Jennifer feel less than. I threw 2 20s on the table to cover the mimosa and whatever else had been ordered. We're leaving, and then we're calling the credit card company and the police. You want to talk about selfish? You're a thief, Veronica, a common thief who stole from her own sister. We left her sitting there, and I could feel the eyes of everyone in the restaurant on us. I didn't care. I was so angry I was shaking, and Jennifer was crying openly now. We got to the car and just sat there for a minute. Jennifer was sobbing, the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that scared me. I pulled her close and let her cry, my own mind racing with what we needed to do next. I'm so sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry. I must have said something or done something that made her think this was okay. Hey, no, I said firmly. This is not on you. She committed fraud. She manipulated you, got information from you under false pretenses, and then stole from us. None of this is your fault. But even as I said it, I was mentally reviewing every conversation, every interaction, trying to figure out how this had happened. How had Veronica gotten enough information to impersonate Jennifer to the credit card company? How had we not noticed for 3 months? We drove to my mom's house to pick up Sophie, but I asked my mom if she could watch her for a few more hours. Mom took one look at Jennifer's tear-stained face and agreed immediately, asking if everything was okay. I told her we'd explain later, and we left. Back at home, I got my laptop and we started documenting everything. I pulled up all the credit card statements for the past 3 months and highlighted every charge that wasn't ours. The list was extensive. Beyond the obvious big ones, there were dozens of smaller charges. Coffee shops in downtown Seattle where we never went. Lunch spots near Veronica's work. Online shopping from luxury retailers. The total came to $13,847.23. $13,847.23. Gone, stolen. Jennifer was shaking as she looked at the number. That's almost half our emergency fund replacement, she whispered. We'd had to use our emergency fund 6 months earlier when our roof had needed unexpected repairs, and we'd been slowly building it back up. This was a catastrophic loss for us. I called the credit card company first, got transferred 3 times before I reached someone in their fraud department. I explained the situation, and the representative was sympathetic but gave me information I really didn't want to hear. Because the card had been properly issued, with someone claiming to be Jennifer requesting it, and because that person had known all the security information, the credit card company was considering the charges valid unless we could prove that Jennifer hadn't made that call. But she didn't, I said, frustration rising. Someone impersonated her. Don't you have recordings of these calls? Can't you verify it wasn't her voice? They could pull the recording, but it would take time. I needed to file a formal fraud report. They'd investigate, but in the meantime, we were responsible for the charges. They could put a freeze on the card immediately, which I authorized, but the money was already spent. Next, I called the police non-emergency line. Another disappointing conversation. The officer I spoke to was polite but made it clear that this was a civil matter as much as a criminal one, because Veronica was family and there might be some argument about permission or misunderstanding. They'd take a report, but I shouldn't expect quick action. Even though she literally told us at brunch that she'd been using our card without permission, I asked, incredulous. It's your word against hers about what was said at brunch, the officer explained. And if she claims your wife gave her permission, we're into he said she said territory. File the report, document everything, and you may want to talk to a lawyer about small claims court. Small claims court had a limit of $10,000 in Washington state, I learned. We'd have to sue in regular civil court for the full amount, which meant lawyer fees, court costs, and months or years of legal battle. After I hung up, Jennifer and I just looked at each other. The anger was fading into something worse, helplessness. What do we do? Jennifer asked. I didn't have an answer yet. Over the next few days, things got worse before they got better. We filed the police report, which felt largely symbolic. We filed the fraud report with the credit card company. We changed all our passwords and security questions on every financial account we had. I set up credit monitoring for both of us to make sure Veronica hadn't opened anything else in our names. The credit card company sent us preliminary findings after a week. The call requesting the additional card had come from a number that, when I looked it up, was a prepaid cell phone, not traceable to Veronica directly. The voice on the recording was female, knew all the security answers, and had provided a mailing address that turned out to be a UPS store where Veronica had apparently rented a mailbox. She'd planned this. This wasn't impulsive or accidental. She'd systematically committed fraud. Jennifer tried calling her sister multiple times. Veronica didn't answer. Finally, she sent a text that said, "I don't have time for your drama. I'll pay you back when I can. Stop harassing me." We consulted with a lawyer. She was sympathetic and agreed that we had a clear case of fraud and theft. However, she was also realistic about our chances of seeing that money again quickly. Even if you win a judgment, which you likely will, collecting on it is another matter, she explained. If Veronica doesn't have assets or income you can garnish, you could be waiting years to see any of that money back, and lawyer fees for this kind of case could run you several $1,000s. We were looking at spending more money. We didn't have to maybe eventually get back money that had already been stolen. It felt like losing twice. But here's the thing about me. I'm patient, I'm methodical, and I don't forgive people who hurt my family. Veronica had hurt Jennifer in a way that went beyond the money. She betrayed her sister's trust, exploited their relationship, and then been cruel about it. The comment about their parents saying Jennifer was selfish, that had burrowed into my wife's brain and was eating at her. I watched Jennifer become depressed over the following weeks. She'd always been the happy one in our relationship, the optimistic one, and now she was withdrawn. She told me, crying, that maybe Veronica was right. Maybe we should have been more generous, more willing to help family. I'd had to sit her down and have a serious conversation. Jennifer, love, listen to me. Helping family is when someone asks for help and you voluntarily give it. What Veronica did was theft. She didn't ask, she took. And then she lied about it and tried to manipulate you into feeling guilty. That's not a sister, that's a con artist. But the damage was done to Jennifer's psyche, and I realized that getting justice wasn't just about the money. It was about showing my wife that she wasn't wrong, that she wasn't selfish, and that actions have consequences. So I started planning. First, I needed more information. I hired a private investigator, which felt very dramatic and cost me another $1,500 we didn't really have, but I needed to know exactly what Veronica's situation was. If we were going to sue her, I needed to know if there was anything to collect. The pie came back with some very interesting information after 2 weeks of digging. Veronica's fostering story, partially true. She had indeed been approved as a foster parent, and there was indeed a baby named Macy placed with her. However, foster parents in Washington state receive a monthly stipend to help with care costs. Veronica was getting about $800 a month from the state for Macy's care. The nanny, real. Carla was a licensed childcare provider working through an agency. $1,600 a month was actually on the lower end for full-time care, which meant Veronica was probably paying under the table or had found someone desperate enough to work cheap. Veronica's financial situation, a disaster. She was maxed out on 3 credit cards of her own, had a car lease she was 2 months behind on, and was actually facing eviction from her expensive loft for non-payment of rent. She was living a completely unsustainable lifestyle, spending money she didn't have to maintain an image for social media and her coworkers. The pie also discovered something else interesting. Veronica's ex-husband, Derek, he was apparently very bitter about the divorce and the settlement. According to public records, he'd paid out a decent chunk in the divorce, but it had all been spent within a year. He was still in the area, working as an attorney at a corporate law firm. An idea started forming. I also started documenting everything Veronica posted on social media, every Instagram story showing expensive meals, new clothes, her perfect life with Macy. I screenshotted all of it, noted the dates, cross-referenced it with our credit card charges, that Prada bag she'd posted about, charged to our card on the same day, the expensive brunch she'd tagged herself at, our card, the luxury spa day, our card. I built a spreadsheet that would make any prosecutor weep with joy. Dates, amounts, photographic evidence, everything cross-referenced and documented. Then I did something that might seem vindictive, but honestly, I was past caring. I reported Veronica to the state foster care agency. I didn't lie or exaggerate. I simply provided them with documented evidence that Veronica was in severe financial distress, was facing eviction, and had recently committed credit card fraud to maintain her lifestyle. I included the police report number and suggested that they might want to evaluate whether her home was stable enough for a foster child. I also sent a carefully worded letter to her employer's HR department. Again, no lies. I explained that an employee of their company had committed fraud against my family, provided the police report number, and noted that we were pursuing legal action. I mentioned that I thought they'd want to be aware that someone in their employ, someone representing their brand, was engaging in criminal activity. Was it ruthless? Yes. Did I feel bad about it? Not even a little bit. The fallout was spectacular. The foster care agency launched an investigation. Within 2 weeks, Macy was removed from Veronica's care and placed with another foster family. I actually felt terrible about that part for the baby's sake, but a child shouldn't be in a home where the foster parent is committing crimes and facing eviction. Veronica's employer put her on administrative leave pending their own investigation. Apparently, luxury cosmetic brands don't love having employees who commit fraud, even if it's unrelated to work. The eviction proceeded, and Veronica had to move out of her expensive loft. According to Jennifer, who heard through their mother, Veronica moved into a small studio apartment in a much less trendy part of town. The car got repossessed because she couldn't make payments without access to our credit card and with her work situation in limbo. Her whole carefully curated life fell apart like a house of cards, and I watched it happen with grim satisfaction. But I still wanted our money back. This is where Derek, the ex-husband, came into play. I reached out to him through his law firm, explained who I was and what had happened. I expected him to tell me to get lost, but instead, he invited me to lunch. Derek turned out to be a sharp guy in his early 40s, still clearly annoyed about his marriage to Veronica. Over sandwiches, he told me stories that sounded very familiar. Veronica spending money they didn't have, hiding purchases, opening credit cards without telling him, running up debt that he'd had to cover. I paid off $40,000 of her debt in the divorce, he told me. It was worth it to get her out of my life. I told her if she ever contacted me again or pulled any of her nonsense where I could see it, I'd make her life hell. So what can I do to help you? I explained our situation in detail. Derek listened, took notes, and then smiled in a way that made me understand why he was successful in corporate law. I'll represent you pro bono, he said. Well, not exactly pro bono. Let's say my payment is the satisfaction of watching Veronica face consequences for once in her life. I'll file a civil suit for the full amount plus interest, pain and suffering, and legal fees. We'll get a judgment, and then we'll garnish everything. When she gets her job back, if she gets her job back, we'll take it from her wages, tax returns, any settlements, anything. I'll make sure this follows her for years. He was true to his word. The lawsuit was filed within a week. Veronica was served at her new studio apartment. Derek was efficient and ruthless, and because he was doing it for free, I didn't have to worry about legal costs piling up. Veronica tried to get a public defender, but this was a civil case, not criminal. She tried to represent herself, which went as badly as you'd imagine. The judge was not sympathetic to her arguments that it was a family misunderstanding when we had documentation of everything, including her own text admitting to the charges and saying she'd pay us back when she could. We won. The judgment was for the full amount of $13,847.23 plus interest, pain, and suffering, which Derek argued for based on Jennifer's documented distress and therapy costs, and legal fees that Derek calculated at what he would have charged. The total came to just over $30,000. Veronica didn't have $30,000. She didn't have $30, but Derek set up the garnishment anyway, 25% of her wages once she got back to work, any tax returns, any financial windfalls. The debt would follow her, accruing interest until it was paid. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted Veronica to understand what she'd done to Jennifer specifically, the emotional damage. Jennifer's parents had been a problem throughout this whole situation. When they'd first learned what Veronica had done, their response had been to tell Jennifer not to make a big deal out of it, that Veronica was going through a hard time, and that family should forgive family. They'd actually suggested we drop the legal action and just let Veronica pay us back slowly. When I'd pointed out that Veronica had no intention of paying us back and had said as much, they'd gotten angry at me for being vindictive. It was the same pattern that had played out Jennifer's entire life. Veronica could do no wrong. Jennifer was supposed to be understanding and accommodating. I decided that needed to change. I put together a package and sent it to Jennifer's parents. It included 1. A complete timeline of the fraud with documentation. 2. Copies of the credit card statements with Veronica's charges highlighted. 3 screenshots of Veronica's Instagram showing her flaunting purchases made with our money. 4. A copy of her text message saying she'd taken the money and would pay us back when she could. 5. Bank statements showing the impact on our savings. 6. A letter from Jennifer's therapist about the emotional impact this had on her mental health. 7. A personal letter from me. The letter from me was perhaps the most brutal thing I've ever written. I detailed, point by point, how their favoritism had created an environment where Veronica felt entitled to take from Jennifer, how their response to this situation, suggesting we just let it go, was a continuation of a lifetime pattern of dismissing Jennifer's feelings and needs, how their inability to hold Veronica accountable had turned her into someone who thought fraud was acceptable. I ended the letter by saying that until they could acknowledge what Veronica had done was wrong, unequivocally and without excuses, and until they could apologize to Jennifer for their response to this situation, they would not be welcome in our home or in our daughter's life. I didn't tell Jennifer I was sending it until after I'd mailed it. When I told her, she cried, but this time they were different tears. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. She'd never been able to stand up to her parents like that, but she'd wanted to. Her parents' response was not good initially. Her father called me, angry, accusing me of trying to divide the family. I let him yell for about 2 minutes, then calmly said, "Veronica divided this family when she stole from us, and you divided it further when you took her side. I'm just making the boundaries clear." Then I hung up. For about a month, there was radio silence. Jennifer was sad about it, but also seemed lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. Then her mother called. She was crying. She said they'd read everything, really read it, and talked to a therapist of their own. She said they hadn't realized how their treatment of the girls had been so unequal. She said they were ashamed of themselves for their initial reaction to the fraud. It wasn't a perfect apology, and it didn't fix 30-plus years of family dysfunction, but it was a start. Jennifer started talking to them again, carefully. I maintained a polite distance. They'd have to earn back my trust. As for Veronica, after she lost her job during the administrative leave, she struggled to find new work in her field. The termination hadn't been explicitly for the fraud, so it wasn't on any official record, but Seattle's marketing world is small, and word got around. She ended up taking a job in retail management, making considerably less than she had before. 25% of her paycheck started coming to us every 2 weeks. It wasn't much, maybe $200 or $300 a month, but it was something. At that rate, it would take years to pay off the full judgment, but I didn't care. I wanted her to feel it every time she got paid. I wanted her to remember what she'd done every single time she saw that garnishment on her pay stub. Jennifer tried to reach out to Veronica a few times over the months that followed. Part of her still missed her sister, or at least missed the idea of having a sister. Veronica never responded to texts or calls. The last Jennifer heard through their mother, Veronica had told the family that Jennifer and I had ruined her life over a misunderstanding and that she'd never forgive us. The lack of self-awareness was almost impressive. About 8 months after the brunch, Jennifer and I were in a better place. The money was slowly being repaid, though we'd essentially had to write off the full amount emotionally and treat anything we got back as a bonus. We'd rebuilt our emergency fund through careful saving and me taking on some freelance coding work. More importantly, Jennifer had been going to therapy and working through a lot of the family issues that had been weighing on her. She was starting to understand that she wasn't responsible for Veronica's choices and that setting boundaries with her parents was healthy, not selfish. Our relationship with her parents was still strained but improving. They made efforts to be more equitable, to pay attention to Jennifer's needs, to not make excuses for Veronica. It would never be perfect, but it was better. Then we got an interesting piece of mail. It was from the credit card company's legal department. After their investigation, which had taken the better part of a year, they had concluded that the card issued to Veronica had been obtained fraudulently. Someone had impersonated Jennifer on the phone call requesting it. Because of this, they were crediting our account for all the fraudulent charges, $13,847.23. We'd won the lawsuit and gotten a judgment. Now the credit card company was also refunding us. Technically, we'd be getting the money twice if we collected the full amount from Veronica through garnishment. I called Derek to ask what we should do. He laughed and said, "Legally, the judgment stands. Veronica owes you that money. What you do with the credit from the card company is your business, but you're not obligated to reduce her judgment. She committed fraud, you suffered damages, the court agreed. If the credit card company also wants to make you whole because of their security failure, that's separate." So we kept both. Was it vindictive? Maybe. Did Veronica now owe us money that we'd technically been repaid? Yes. Did I feel bad about it? Not really. We used the credit card refund to do something Jennifer had always wanted. We took Sophie to Disneyland. A real vacation, no budgeting stress, just our little family making happy memories. And every time I saw Sophie's face light up meeting her favorite characters, I thought about how Veronica had tried to take that from us. The garnishment from Veronica continued. We set up a separate savings account where that money went, and we decided it would be Sophie's future fund. College, a car when she was older, whatever she needed. Veronica's theft would ultimately benefit our daughter, which felt like poetic justice. About a year after the brunch, Jennifer got a Facebook message from Veronica. It was long and rambling, and it might have been written while drunk, we couldn't tell. The gist of it was that Veronica was sorry, she'd been in a bad place, she'd made terrible choices, and she hoped someday Jennifer could forgive her. But buried in the middle of the apology were lines like, "I wouldn't have felt like I had to do what I did if you'd been more willing to help me in the first place. And you always had everything so easy with your perfect little family while I was struggling." It wasn't a real apology. It was more manipulation, more blame shifting. Jennifer showed it to me, and I watched her read it several times. Then she typed out a response. I didn't tell her what to say, didn't coach her. This was her choice to make. Her message was short. I hope you get help and figure your life out, but I can't have a relationship with someone who refuses to take responsibility for their actions. I loved you as a sister, but I don't trust you as a person. Please don't contact me again. Then she blocked Veronica on all platforms. I was proud of her. The Jennifer I'd married would have agonized over that decision, would have felt guilty, might have tried to rebuild the relationship just because it was family. This Jennifer knew her worth and protected her peace. We're 2 years out from the brunch now. The garnishment continues, slowly chipping away at the judgment. We'll probably never collect the full amount, and honestly, at this point, it's not about the money, it's about the principle. Sophie is 5 now and starting kindergarten. She doesn't know anything about what happened with her aunt, just that Aunt Veronica lives far away and we don't see her. Maybe when she's older, we'll explain it in age-appropriate terms, or maybe we won't. Maybe some family drama doesn't need to be passed down to the next generation. Jennifer's relationship with her parents is the best it's been in years, ironically. The crisis forced them to confront patterns they'd fallen into, and while it's not perfect, they make real efforts now. They spend time with Sophie, they ask about Jennifer's work, they remember her birthday without being reminded. Small things that shouldn't be remarkable but are. As for me, I learned some valuable lessons. I learned to check my credit card statements more carefully, obviously. I learned that not all family is good family. I learned that sometimes standing up for your spouse means being the bad guy in someone else's story. But most importantly, I learned that my wife is stronger than even she knew, and that protecting your family sometimes means going to war. Would I do anything differently if I could go back? I'd set up those damn phone alerts properly, that's for sure. And maybe I would have been more suspicious of Veronica earlier, paid more attention to the red flags that were probably there. But the aftermath, the lawsuit, the reports to her employer and the foster agency, the letter to Jennifer's parents, I wouldn't change any of it. Veronica faced consequences for her actions, Jennifer learned to set boundaries, and our marriage actually got stronger through the crisis. People sometimes ask Jennifer if she misses her sister. She's honest. She misses the idea of having a sister, the relationship she wished they'd had. But she doesn't miss Veronica, not the real Veronica who was selfish and manipulative and cruel. I don't miss Veronica at all. I just miss the $13,847.23 she stole, but even that's being slowly repaid, 25% at a time. The last I heard through Jennifer's mom, Veronica had moved to Portland. Fresh start, new city, away from the wreckage of her life in Seattle. Part of me hopes she actually gets her act together, becomes a better person, figures out whatever is broken inside her that made her think stealing from family was acceptable. But a larger part of me doesn't really care what happens to her, as long as it happens far away from my family. There's a postscript to this story that happened just a few months ago. Jennifer and I were out to dinner, just the two of us, having a rare date night. We'd gone to a nice Italian place downtown, and we were enjoying wine and pasta and actually relaxing for once. And Veronica walked in. She was with a guy, someone we didn't recognize. She looked different, less polished than she used to be. Her hair was simpler, her outfit was nice but not designer, and she seemed more subdued. She saw us immediately, and I watched the color drain from her face. For a moment, I thought she might turn around and leave. The guy she was with noticed her reaction and asked if something was wrong. She said something we couldn't hear, and they were seated on the other side of the restaurant. Jennifer had gone tense beside me, her hand gripping her wine glass like it was a lifeline. "Do you want to leave?" I asked quietly. She thought about it, then shook her head. "No, we were here first. We're not leaving." So we stayed, we enjoyed our meal. We didn't look over at Veronica's table, didn't acknowledge her presence. When we left, we walked right past her table, and I felt her eyes on us, but we didn't stop. In the car, Jennifer let out a long breath. That was harder than I expected. "You did great," I told her. I didn't feel great, I felt. She paused, searching for words. I felt sad, not for her exactly, just sad that this is what we are now, strangers who used to be sisters. I reached over and took her hand. "That was her choice. You tried. You gave her so many chances. She chose this." "I know," Jennifer said. "I know that. It just still hurts sometimes." And that's the thing about betrayal, especially from family. Even when you've done everything right, even when you've set boundaries and protected yourself and held people accountable, it can still hurt. The scar tissue is tough, but it's still a scar. We went home that night and paid the babysitter and checked on Sophie sleeping peacefully in her bed. We'd protected this, our little family, our peace. That had to be enough. The garnishment continues. Every month, a small payment arrives, a reminder of what happened and what we survived. Jennifer's parents came over for Sophie's birthday and brought thoughtful presents and didn't mention Veronica once. Our emergency fund is healthy again. Jennifer got a promotion at work. I started a side business that's actually doing well. Life moved on like it does. But I still think about that brunch sometimes. The moment Veronica said, "I hired a nanny and put it on your card." The casual entitlement, the absolute belief that she had a right to our money, our security, our future. And I think about the moment at the restaurant, seeing her diminished and distant, and feeling nothing much at all. They say the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I don't hate Veronica anymore. I did for a while. That burning rage that made me want to destroy her life the way she'd tried to destroy ours, but that faded. Now I just don't care. She's a person I used to know who did a terrible thing. She faces consequences for it every month when her paycheck is garnished. She lost her sister because of her choices. She has to live with that. And me, I get to go home to my wife and daughter, to our modest house with our reliable cars and our Target shopping trips. The life Veronica looked down on, the life she thought gave her the right to steal from us. Turns out our boring, responsible, unsexy life is pretty damn good. We have each other, we have trust, we have integrity. Veronica has a smaller paycheck and a fresh start in Portland, and as far as I know, no one who'd trust her with their credit card. I know which life I'd choose. Jennifer is in the kitchen now as I write this, making pancakes with Sophie for Sunday breakfast. I can hear them laughing about something, and Sophie is singing a song she learned at school. In a bit, I'll close my laptop and join them, and we'll eat pancakes and maybe go to the park if the Seattle weather cooperates. It's a regular Sunday, quiet, domestic, exactly the kind of life Veronica thought was beneath her. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. The garnishment will continue for years, probably. Every month, a reminder that actions have consequences. Every month, a little more money in Sophie's future fund. Every month, Veronica has to remember what she did and what it cost her. That's not revenge exactly. It's just justice, slow and steady and inevitable. And honestly, that's more satisfying than any dramatic confrontation could ever be. So that's the story of how a Sunday brunch destroyed a family relationship, exposed years of dysfunction, cost someone their job and their foster child and their carefully curated life. The story of how 13,847.23 in fraudulent charges led to a lawsuit, a garnishment, and a sister permanently cut off from the family she stole from. People who hear this story usually have one of two reactions. Either they think I went too far, that I was vindictive and cruel and should have just let it go because family is family, or they think I didn't go far enough, that Veronica deserved criminal prosecution and jail time. I don't really care about either opinion. I did what I needed to do to protect my wife and daughter and our future. I held someone accountable for a crime they committed. I made sure Jennifer knew that she mattered, that her feelings mattered, that she didn't have to accept mistreatment just because it came from family. Would Veronica tell this story differently? Absolutely. In her version, I'm probably the villain, the vindictive brother-in-law who destroyed her life over a misunderstanding, who turned her sister against her, who couldn't just help out family in need. But that's the thing about being someone's villain. Sometimes it means you're someone else's hero. Jennifer doesn't need a hero, really. She's strong enough on her own. But she needed someone in her corner, fighting for her, showing her that she deserved better than how her family had treated her. I'd be that person every time. I'd file every report, make every call, write every letter, sit through every legal proceeding. All of it, again and again. Because that 13,847.23 wasn't just money. It was our security. It was Sophie's future. It was Jennifer's trust, broken by someone who should have protected it. And you don't get to break my family and walk away without consequences. The garnishment continues, 25% every paycheck for years to come. Justice is patient, justice is thorough. And justice, unlike family, is actually blind to everything except the facts. Veronica stole from us. Veronica faced consequences, the end. Except it's not the end, not really. Because every time Sophie needs something for school and we pay for it from her special fund, I remember. Every time Jennifer smiles without that shadow of anxiety her sister used to put there, I remember. Every time we check our credit cards and all the charges are actually ours, I remember. We won not because we got our money back, though that helped. We won because we didn't let someone's betrayal make us bitter or broken. We set boundaries, we demanded accountability, and we protected our peace. And we're still here, still strong, still us. Veronica is in Portland, living whatever life she's built from the ashes of the one she burned down. And honestly, I hope she's doing okay. I hope she learned something. I hope she became a better person. But I hope all of that from a distance, because she'll never be close to my family again. Some bridges once burned should stay that way. The pancakes are ready. Sophie is calling for me. Jennifer is laughing. This is my life. This is what matters. Everything else is just a story we tell about the time someone tried to take it from us and failed.